How you guys doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy, and hey, we got a special guest today. Our boy Tyler Miller. He does all of our NASCAR stuff for us. And hey, man, we're here to kind of just go over some NASCAR, and he's going to teach me a little bit of NASCAR, teach you guys a little bit of NASCAR. Real quick before we do jump into this, though, if you guys don't mind, just take that quick second, click the like button down below. And if you guys haven't already, man, make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. We got a ton of stuff day in and day out. MLB, NHL on the weekends we have, NASCAR, we have MMA. We also have some PGA stuff. So, hey, make sure to check it out. DFScheatsheet.com. We got a free 2-week trial right now. You can just check it out. Make sure that our product is right for you. Yeah, man, I'm excited about this video. How you guys doing out there today?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm excited to get some NASCAR. We finally got Tyler on a video. This will be cool.
Yeah, for sure. So real quick, just give you a little bit of background on Tyler. He's been writing our NASCAR articles for us for almost 6 months now. He loves NASCAR. He's been watching NASCAR all of his life. He actually was he ran a Sirius XM radio show for about 5 years. That was a very, very exciting time for him, and we're excited to have him with us. So how you doing out there, Tyler?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's fun. This is something I've been looking forward to.
Yeah, for sure. It's always fun, getting on talking sports. And like I said, I was telling you guys before we got on, I really don't know very much about NASCAR, but I love DFS. So I'm really excited to kind of hear what kind of take you guys have on playing DFS and NASCAR. So you guys ready to kind of just jump into this video?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Real quick, one thing I just want to mention, not only Tyler is really, really good with NASCAR. Jeremy, you guys all know Jeremy already. Jeremy already had a NASCAR takedown earlier this year. So he knows this stuff for the most part as well with NASCAR. So, let's jump into it. So the first question, we're just going to kind of jump into it and go with, it's going to be, there was some weather concern. There was some weather concern this weekend. So do you think that the race this weekend is actually going to even happen?
Yeah, I'm not worried about the weather. It's July in Daytona Beach, Florida. It rains. There's thunderstorms every afternoon. There's always a chance of rain. There's lights at Daytona. They could run this race in the middle of the night like they're doing with the Xfinity race on Friday night. They could run it on Saturday if they needed to. Really, with weather, you don't worry too much about if the race will get in, because it will get in eventually. It's more of an issue, will the race get shortened and the finishing order get all jacked up? Because people take aggressive strategy, stay out, don't go into the pits when they probably should, and then the race gets called, and then somebody random wins the race. We've seen that happen before. But, yeah, I think weather's going to be fine. It might be wet. Maybe it's delayed. The important thing from a DFS perspective is to remember that lineup lock is at 7:30. It doesn't matter if they run the race later Saturday night or they wait and run it on Sunday or Monday. The lineups are locked, so there's nothing you can do about it after 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night.
All right, so while we're quickly talking about weather, we'll kind of stick with that topic real quick before we move on. One more question I kind of have for you is, with the qualifying being rained out, the drivers will be seated based on their season points, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the drivers are seated by owner points, which does not necessarily take into account wins. So the drivers with the most wins aren't necessarily first, but it goes by charter team owner points, and that's how everyone is 1 through 35. And then you have some open teams that are in. There's only 40 teams. Only 40 teams showed up to Daytona, so all 40 will make it. Nobody has to go home, even because qualifying was rained out. But yeah, they're basically set by points. So Joey Logano and Kyle Busch on the front row, and then you have drivers like Parker Kligerman, J.J. Yaley, Ross Chastain, Brendan Gaughan will start at the back of the pack.
Got you. So before we jump into the actual race and start talking some info on this actual race, me personally, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I've never played NASCAR DFS, and I'm looking at the contest, and there's a lot of money to definitely be made in DFS NASCAR. So for somebody like myself who doesn't know much about NASCAR but loves DFS, what kind of advice do you have kind of getting started playing NASCAR DFS?
Well, I'll let Jeremy jump in here. Jeremy, I would say contest, the selection, what you want to play in is definitely going to be key.
I would agree with that 100%. And I would look, it's like any other DFS sport. You have to define what you want to do. Are you a cash game player? Are you not a cash game player? Are you looking to take down a tournament? FanDuel has a really nice tournament, $7.77 entry fee. It's Daytona, and this is usually a $10K to first place. It's $20K to first place. And then they've got some kind of bonus where it's $10K for a lap leader bonus that I think is split up between every single person who owns the driver that leads the most laps. So
I think it's if you all your drivers have to lead a lap.
If all your drivers lead a lap, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there will be some lineups made where people are just going to load their lines and kind of blow like waste lineups. If you're building 150, somebody may waste some lineups just trying to nail down as much of the top drivers as they can get and guys who look like they could lead a lap in the race to try to take that bonus down. But building DFS lineups for NASCAR is much different than baseball where you're stacking. Obviously, you can stack to a certain extent. I know I texted Tyler last week that I was stacking some of the lineups I built. I stacked team owners. So I had stacked some Penske. I had stacked some Richard Childress. I built some lineups based off trying to get all of one team in a lineup. And sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. But from a DFS standpoint, building lineups, it's one of the funnest sports because of the way it breaks down price-wise. You can build a lot of lineups where you're trading one person out. And there are guys based on the scoring system where you need points or you get points for differential. You know, if a guy starts 32nd and he finishes the race 15th, he's going to get a bunch of points for differential. So, you know, you could take a value guy at 4,000, like a Parker, or a Matthew Tift, or you know, one of these guys down at the bottom that race it. You know, usually race in and race out, these guys can make up 6 to 8 spots, and that gives you a good floor to build your lineup and kind of go get the more expensive drivers.
Yeah, I agree. I would say something I advocate for in the articles I write is a lot of the racetracks where NASCAR goes is a mile to a mile and a half, to even the 2-mile tracks like Michigan and Auto Club Speedway. Those tracks, I think you can play an advantage to playing cash games. I think there's less risk. There's less unknowns. You can build a solid lineup, finish in the top half, double your money, and keep going that way. Races like Daytona, Talladega, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, where there's unknowns, guys wreck, there's massive crashes. You know, the July race at Daytona a year ago, there was something like 10 cautions. I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. caused half of them. It was insane. And Eric Jones, you know, we had a first-time winner with Eric Jones. So there's so much unknown when you take on that much risk. I think you need the potential for a higher reward, and that's why I would advocate for playing GPPs, multiple lineups in this for this weekend at least at Daytona.
That's a very, very good point because you've got like some of the racetracks you mentioned where there's not going to be a lot of passing. It's going to be tight. Way different than here where you've got race cars going over 200 miles an hour and guys going 3 wide and just a ton of risk. As really said, there is rain here and guys do change up the way they race and take more aggressive stances. You could have a lot more wrecks than somebody that we don't even know comes out of nowhere and wins it.
Yeah, I get you. So I just want to, I mean, like I said, I'm still new to this. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. So, you know, for example, when I think about football, you think about a running back in football. You want a running back like a Todd Gurley, somebody that's going to get, you know, 3 downs, going to get all the rushes, going to get all the passes out the backfield. In basketball, we look for people like Russell Westbrook who gives us points in multiple ways. There's not just scoring dependent or not just rebounding dependent. So when you're picking guys in NASCAR, is there something specific kind of that basic that you're looking at?
So I think the key to this is having a healthy mix. You know, that you want to get the guy, especially if you're playing GPPs, you know, you got to get the guy that scores the most points. You want the driver that's going to lead the most laps, win the race. Especially on DraftKings, where the scoring is a little bit different, and you get points for things like fastest laps run, and it's a full point for differential and a quarter point for laps led. So that becomes more important, but you also need a mix of those differential points. The guys, you know, if you start the drivers that start the race first, second, and third, you know, that can be kind of risky because if something happens, then all of a sudden you're starting to accumulate negative points. Where if you're starting guys that are starting in the middle of the pack and you think they're going to go up towards the top 10, finish top 10, top 5, that's going to score you more DFS points than maybe the guy that starts 4th and finishes the race 6th, 7th, or 8th.
I get what you're saying. So you're, yeah, no, I get you completely. If they're already starting at the beginning, it's kind of, they can basically go backwards compared to if you're in the middle of the pack. It's easier to kind of work your way up to the top, basically, right?
Yeah, in the right situation. You know, you got to find the driver that maybe he screwed up on his qualifying lap. I remember a couple weeks ago at Sonoma, I think Jeremy texted me and said, what happened to Eric Jones in qualifying? He's starting the race 32nd, and he had a flat tire in qualifying. We ended up playing him across the board pretty much everywhere, and he had a great day. I think he scored top 3 in DFS points, even though he finished the race maybe 7th or 8th. He had a big day in DFS because of his starting position.
Right. No, that makes sense for sure. So, man, I'm ready to jump into it, kind of talk this race we got tomorrow. It's the Coke Zero Sugar 400, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, getting started on the actual race, the first question I'm going to kind of go with on this particular race is going to be, is there somebody that ran well in the original race but may have not had the results to really show for it? Is there somebody kind of standing out for you like that?
Yeah, when you say the original race, we're talking about the Daytona 500 from February. Earlier this year, they raced at this track. A couple differences. That race was during the day. It was also a 500-mile race, where this is a 400-mile race. And I would say the mileage difference is a bigger difference than the day-night difference. But anyone who watched that race, you remember Matt DiBenedetto. I mean, he ran up front for the good part of the race. He led 49 laps, ended up wrecking just purely out of inexperience. I mean, wrecked himself at the front of the field, finished 28th, had a bad day. Matt DiBenedetto, $5,000 on FanDuel, $6,400 on DraftKings. He's going to start this race. I believe, let me double check his starting position here. Starting this race 25th. I like him a lot this weekend. Kind of a redemption story for Matt DiBenedetto.
Okay, for sure.
There's 3 guys that I like. We'll see what Tyler thinks about this. There's 3 guys that I like a ton based off of there wasn't qualifying and the way that the race is going to start. I love he's going to smile when I say this because it's a guy I text him every single weekend about. But I love William Byron, and I love William Byron because he's 12th, and he kind of fits in that Todd Gurley category for me, where this guy runs fast, and he's run fast for pretty much the whole season. Correct? I mean, he's shown an ability to lead laps but not finish a race, I think would be how I would characterize William Byron. But he's a guy that's always there, and starting 12th, I think he can definitely lead laps here, and I think that he definitely can finish in the top 10 here. I love DiBenedetto. This is a guy that I think that Tyler and I have both played since Tyler's been riding for us. It's just been one of those guys that, like you said, heartbreak city for him the first time around here in the Daytona 500. But this guy just coming off his best finish at Sonoma too, where he finished 4th. So I think those guys are really cheap. I think they're mispriced. And then another guy for me that I like, and we'll get your take on it, is Chris Buescher. I think starting the 22nd spot at 6,300. This is a really good price for him. Those are 3 guys that are in this value tier to me that stand out a ton.
Yeah, I'll say one note on William Byron. William Byron wrecked in practice. It's kind of been the story of Daytona this weekend. Brad Keselowski just flat ran over him in turn 3. Didn't lift, wouldn't lift, was interviewed after, said, I'm not going to lift. He needs to learn how to drive, basically. So William Byron will start at the back despite having a 12th place starting position. So he'll still be credited with 12th place. So all his differential points will go off at 12th, but he's going to start at the tail end of the field. I worry a little bit about him because of experience. He's a young kid. He's shown he can be fast. Man, I didn't write him up. He's not in victory lane at all. I don't know. I'm not really on William Byron this week. I agree with you, Matt DiBenedetto, as I just said, 100%. Chris Buescher, yeah, I could see that. Starting 22nd, though, if he runs where he should, he'll probably finish 20th to 25th. If he can make his way up at the front towards the end, you never know what's going to happen. He could definitely run top 10. I'll give you a couple other guys I really like. And then my number one value play this week is Brendan Gaughan. I mean, Brendan Gaughan runs the plate tracks, and that's it. He's in an RCR, ECR car. He always walks around and tells all the drivers during driver intros, hey, big engine, South Point Casino, that's me. That's his family's business. He's fully funded. He runs these races because he wants to win. He's not going to run it to get a paycheck. He'll hang out in the back for most of the race just to stay out of trouble. But when it comes down to it, he knows how to finish and to charge at the end. He ran well. He killed my GPP lineups at Talladega because I didn't play him. He finished 15th. He was running well. I think he got caught up in a wreck in the Daytona 500. But at 5,000, DraftKings has him priced up to 7,200, which really made me mad. I wanted him cheaper than that, but I like him, and he's starting at the back, 39th starting position for Brendan Gaughan this weekend.
He finished 23rd in the Daytona 500, didn't he?
He finished 23rd, and because he got hung up and it didn't quite work out the way he had potential to run a little bit better than that. But yeah, I mean, starting 39th, there's nowhere to go but up.
Right.
So my next question I'm gonna kind of go with is there any drivers that have like a really good track history at this racetrack?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's where you have to make your first decision, right? So you're going to look at the top of the board and you're going to see on FanDuel, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney. Those are your top price drivers. The stat and the stat that I really like and what I'm leaning on a little bit this weekend is the laps led stat. Denny Hamlin leads all active drivers with 437 laps led at Daytona. It's over 9% of the laps he's run there. I like Denny Hamlin starting 6th. The price point, at 13,000, you're going to need him to probably finish top 5 and lead some laps. But I think that's in the realm of possibility if he doesn't get in a wreck. And everything we're going to talk about today is going to be contingent on if he doesn't get in a wreck. But I like Denny Hamlin. He's kind of my top guy. I like that stat of the most laps led. A stat we look at is driver rating at Daytona. And Denny Hamlin, second best driver rating, right behind Kyle Busch, average rating of 87.9. And if you're not familiar with driver rating, what you're looking for is 100. An average driver rating of 100 or better means they're really good at that racetrack. So 87 at a plate track, that's pretty good. I mean, the top driver rating is Kyle Busch at 91.2. So that's where we're looking at with Denny Hamlin. His average running position throughout the race is 15th or 15.095. which is 4th best. So I like Denny Hamlin this weekend. He's my number one guy from the high end, the top salary drivers.
Got you. So this is a question that's kind of getting a little bit off of the actual race. I'm curious about this. Like I said, I'm trying to learn a little bit. How big of a difference is it being a night race compared to a day race?
I don't think it's a big – it's hard to compare the July Daytona race to the Daytona 500. They're two completely different races, completely different feels. Like I said earlier, I think the 100-mile difference is bigger than just the day-night difference at Daytona. There's other tracks where it makes a difference because of grip and track temp when they're letting off when they let off the throttle and go into the corner, whether or not their tires slide or not can depend a lot on if the sun's out or if it's dark. At Daytona, they're flat on the floor the whole way around the track. So that I don't think that makes much difference for this weekend. It is worth noting that it's a different package for Daytona. When they ran the Daytona 500, they ran a restrictor plate, which now they're back to the tapered spacer throttle body. So this is going to be the same package that you saw at Talladega, a little bit slower. They'll suck up a little faster. You'll see a lot more runs. They were very aggressive racing at Talladega with this package. So I think it'll be quite a bit different between this race and the Daytona 500. But I don't think it'll necessarily be because of the day-night difference.
Got you. That makes sense. So this question is for both of you guys, and I mean we've touched on it a little bit, but I just want to kind of outline it so our viewers can like jot it down, do what they have to do. So I want to know 3 guys. I want to know your guys' top play overall. I want to know you guys really good mid-tier play and your favorite value play. So 3 guys from each of you, if you don't mind.
I'll let you go ahead, Jeremy.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I'm doing most of the talking, but I'll go ahead. I really like Denny Hamlin at the top. Denny Hamlin's my number one guy. Kyle Busch a close second for the high-end drivers. The thing with Kyle, as we've been talking about, is his starting position. He's starting second. For mid-tier drivers, when I ran the numbers, I couldn't believe it. Austin Dillon at Daytona has finished 94.5% of the laps he's run. His July finishes are 9th, 36th, which got caught up in a wreck, which happens, 7th, 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 and 5th. Austin Dillon at 6,700 on FanDuel, 6,600 on DraftKings. That's a great value for the mid-tier. And then at the value end, Brendan Gaughan at 5,000 I really like, and Matt DiBenedetto. So if I had to pick one, I'd pick Brendan Gaughan. So I'll say Gaughan, Austin Dillon, and Denny Hamlin are my three.
So it's really hard for me not to like Joey Logano and not to like Kyle Busch. I mean, it's really hard to not like that. But from a lineup building standpoint, there's nowhere to go for these guys besides backwards. Do I think both these guys can lead laps here? Absolutely, I think they could both lead laps. They're two of the best drivers doing it right now. But you need them to win. If you're going to load them up, you need one of these guys to win or finish where they started. So that makes it difficult for me. One of the things that you're going to find when you start building lineups and you're trying to figure out where you're going to build your upside at, the way this is priced out, it's ease of both DiBenedetto and Gaughan in the same lineup with three top tier guys. I think you'll get a lot of builds like that. I think the mid tier guys are going to go overlooked somewhat. The mid tier range, it's really hard for me not to like Eric Jones. Eric Jones has been running really well. I've had him in my lineups in each of the past 3 weeks. I like Eric Jones. I think he's done really well. Like you just mentioned, I text you what happened to Eric Jones in qualifying at Sonoma because I just couldn't believe he was going to start at the back. So I like him a lot. And I think, look, you see DiBenedetto, I love a ton. I will use because I religiously use what Tyler says every single week. I will use Brendan as well. And I think you can build lineups with both those guys. One guy we're not mentioning that has been a value play for me, thanks to Tyler, whenever he's raced, is Parker. Is it Killergram or Kligergram?
Kligerman. Parker Kligerman.
There you go, yeah. Kligerman. So, hey, bro, you got a chance to hear me butcher somebody's name for once.
It's about time that I'm not the one doing it.
Is he in play, Tyler? Do you think he's in play this week?
Absolutely, he's in play. I wrote it up in Victory Lane. Kligerman, 15th in the Daytona 500 this year. He's a smart kid. He's actually going from broadcaster to racer for this race because he's on the NBC telecast. Normally.
I saw him today, and I was like, wait a minute. I don't know what these guys look like, right? I don't watch enough to know who they are. And I was like, he was doing an interview, and I was like, wait, which one is Parker? Because I don't know who – like, is he really a broadcaster? I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, he plays broadcaster in his spare time. No, he's a cool dude. I mean, he's a good guy. He's going to be smart. He's one of those guys. He's going to run in the back. It's a part-time deal, a part-time team, but he's there to win. I mean, he's not there to run around in the back and finish last. That's why he's picking this race to come into. 15th in the Daytona 500 this year. He's starting 36th. If you're playing DraftKings, I would not go any lower than Parker Kligerman at 5,400. I don't like any of the options below his price point, but I do like Parker, and I think Parker Kligerman's a good way to go for sure. You need some exposure to that.
Last question. I want both your guys' opinion on it, and we can kind of get out of here, wrap things up. Who's the favorite for the race, and do you agree with them being the favorite?
It's a good question. The favorite, I write this up in the setup, which is our preview piece on DFS Cheat Sheet each week. What Vegas thinks it's the Westgate opening lines. So this obviously changes a little bit throughout the weekend. But the favorite this week it's tied. Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski are both 8-1. At least that was the open for them. Usually it's Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is favored some weeks as high as 3-1. But Logano and Keselowski are the favorite. I like Logano over Keselowski this week, but I would probably agree that he's the favorite. But at 8-1, I mean that's still somewhat of a long shot.
Who's your sneaky pick?
Who's my sneaky pick? I like Eric Jones. I like what you said about Eric Jones. Here's a fun stat for you. In the last 2 Daytona races, so the Daytona 500 in last July, there's only 2 drivers who finished in the top 10 in both races. Those 2 drivers are Eric Jones and Ty Dillon, which would be Austin's younger brother. I like both of those guys a little bit. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He got a ton of crap last year because he basically wrecked everybody in the field. No, he didn't wreck everybody in the field, but he was very aggressive. He needs a win. That's kind of going to be a subplot if you watch the race tomorrow night on NBC. They'll talk about the guys that need a win to make the playoffs. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Eric Jones are both in that boat where they're outside of the top 16 in points, and a win automatically gets them in. So I would look for them to be pretty aggressive and try to get up front at the end.
The interesting thing about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is prior to the Sonoma race, his salary was, I believe, in the 7,000s, and over the last few weeks, he's all the way up to 9,300 on FanDuel. So it's not like I think I couldn't agree more with you. I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is the sneakiest pick. I do think that Brad Keselowski deserves to be considered as one of the favorites, and I think he's a guy that nobody is thinking about. If you look at where he's priced at, you look at who's above him, you look where he's starting at, he just looks like a guy that when you build lineups is going to be the guy that gets overlooked. And this guy's, he's raced well all year, obviously.
Yeah. The thing about Keselowski is I think there's some weight that needs to be put to the fact that he wrecked William Byron in practice and he did it on purpose. And I don't think the other drivers like that. So Daytona's a track where you need help. You need help to get to the front. You need a pusher. You got to get, he's going to have his teammates who will help him. But there might be a little something to that the drivers weren't too thrilled with him wrecking a rookie driver in practice or a second-year driver.
Real quick before we get out of here I can't remember because it's been a while. Was the Daytona 500 the race that the manufacturers held a meeting and asked them to only help the other manufacturers? Yes. It was, correct? It
was Daytona. Well, it kind of came up in Daytona, and then it became very evident at Talladega that was going on.
So do you think, based off that, would you be looking for at this race? It hasn't been anything in the news recently about it, right? It's not been as big of a deal as it was going into those. But do you think that you would go with teams if you were stacking stuff up or manufacturers if you were stacking stuff up?
That's a good point, right? Because you're going to see a lot of times 1-2 finishes, 1-3 finishes based on if there's two packs of two cars pushing each other side by side. So yeah, that's a good way to go. If you think, if you're going to stack, we talked about Brendan Gaughan, Matt DiBenedetto at the bottom, and then playing 3 top end guys. Take Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano together. Take Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin together, something like that, and think that they're going to push each other to the win and one of them would win. Yeah, that's smart. I like the way you're thinking. I don't think, at Talladega, we did very well by avoiding all the Toyotas. I didn't play Kyle Busch, didn't recommend any of them. And the Chevys and Fords just completely dumped them. Just anytime they hung them out to dry in the draft, everybody went around them. There was no – I'm using my hands a lot. I don't know if you guys can all see me. But I don't think that's going to be the case as much at Daytona. The track's a little bit more narrow. It's going to be harder to just go around people without causing a big wreck on the backstretch, blocking all the way to the grass. You could see some of that maybe. But, yeah, I think stacking teammates and thinking they would finish 1-2 or even 3-4, 4-6, something like that is a smart way to go.
Cool.
For sure. So, hey, man, thank you very much, Tyler, for your time and getting on here and teaching me a little bit of NASCAR. I feel like I got a little bit better grasp on how to play, and I'm gonna be trying it out tomorrow, and I'll let you know how it goes. If you guys haven't already, make sure to go check out Tyler's articles that he does every single NASCAR race. Make sure to check out his premium article, Victory Lane. He breaks everything down, basically just like we did on this video. Go follow. You can follow him on Twitter at RickyBobby_Jr. And hey, that's it, man. Good luck tomorrow on your guys' NASCAR contest, and peace out.